Hi, everybody. It's another episode on my video series, Natural Remedies. And I'm Julie with Wild Child Wellness, where we discuss natural remedies for common childhood symptoms and when to seek medical attention. I'm sorry this video is a little late. I actually had recorded it about a week ago, but I couldn't get it to upload. I guess I had recorded it wrong or whatever. But as y'all know, I am new at learning technology, so it is definitely a process. So I have 30 years experience as a pediatric nurse, as well as natural remedies like medicinal herbalism and homeopathy. And I like to use this forum to discuss these topics. This is not a substitute for medical advice from a trusted medical provider. It is for informational purposes only. So today we're going to talk about all the many different uses for something as simple as a common household product like vinegar, just regular, cheap, white, clear distilled vinegar. Now, there is, of course, apple cider vinegar, which is used in a lot of different ways. But today, I just want to talk about how to use this common household product because I actually always keep a bottle on me. I keep a small spray bottle in my beach bag or in my mommy bag. Sometimes I'll have these size bottles around the house because there's just so many different things you can use it for. And I love the idea of having a multi-use product. I'd rather have one product that I could use 5 different ways than 5 different products that all do one thing. So it's a good one to have. And of course, it's cheap, it's easily available, and most importantly, it's safe. It's non-toxic. Whether you're talking about cleaning products or other types of products you have around the house, especially if you have small children, you always want to opt for something that, if God forbid, worst case scenario, if your child gets into it when you're not paying attention and they get it into their mouth or they drink it or get it on their skin, you don't want to have to worry about there being some kind of injury or illness that results. So the good thing about the vinegar is you don't have to worry about that. And of course, we probably all already know the many different ways you can use vinegar to clean the house. There's been so many videos done about different household cleaning uses for vinegar, and you can definitely check elsewhere for that. I want to cover some of the uses that are maybe a little bit less well known and are a little bit more related to just medical issues that you might come across with your child. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is swimmer's ear. Now, it is a beautiful day in May here in the mountains. It's actually Memorial Day weekend, so happy Memorial Day. So, it's the start of summer swim season for kids, and that means your kids may be spending a lot of time, especially if they get to a certain age, like around 3 or 4, when they learn to put their head underwater. Now, every time you take them to the pool or the lake or the beach, they just love to put their head underwater, even in the bathtub. Once they figure out how, they like to do it a lot. So, what happens is the water gets very deep inside their ear. Just getting their head wet isn't going to do it. They actually have to submerge their head underwater. And I know I've talked about this in other videos of other topics. So, if this sounds like redundant, just forgive me. But, sometimes different topics to talk about pop up under different subjects of different videos. So if your child puts their head underwater a lot, they're going to get water deep, deep into the ear canal. And then it doesn't dry out well because it's like a long, narrow tunnel. And then the bacteria and the fungus that lives on the skin inside the ear canal, it's like watering a garden. It just flourishes. So that can cause an overgrowth of bad bacteria and fungus. And then that can cause a very painful condition called swimmer's ear. Now, swimmer's ear is very, you know, it's the kind of thing that once they get it once, it may show that your child's prone to it, either because of the size of their ear canal naturally or it's just their behavior and their activities that they put their head underwater a lot. So you might be thinking, well, how can I prevent this from happening? Especially if you've experienced it once. I went through it once with my kid and it's horrible. So once that happens, you're like, I will do whatever it takes and not have to go through this again. And just to touch on briefly, the way you can tell is if your child has ear pain without any other illness symptoms and it hurts when you wiggle this little part of their ear, it's called the tragus, then you're probably dealing with swimmer's ear. Once it sets in, you're going to need something a little stronger than vinegar to treat it. But at the beginning of the summer season, it's a good idea to get a little bottle of vinegar, preferably a dropper. You can use this because I use it for other things, a spray bottle, but you want to be able to put drops. So every evening after they've been swimming, especially if they've been putting their head underwater, then when they lay down, put a couple of drops, like 4 to 6 drops of vinegar in their ear, and maybe put a cotton ball there to keep it there. Let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then have them lay on their other side and put the drops in the other ear too. If you just get in the habit of doing that every night, you are very unlikely to run into having swimmer's ear kick in. It works very well. I know a lot of competitive swimmers and, kids that are lifeguards, and they learn about it and they just do it as part of their evening routine so that they don't have that problem come up. So that's a good use for it. Another medical use that vinegar is good for is to prevent athlete's foot, which is also a very common summer issue. When athlete's foot is a fungus and it loves a warm, wet environment, which we have a lot of in the summer, whether you're talking about the ground that's next to the swimming pools, the tiles, or if your kids at the pool and they run into a public bathroom. If kids do any kind of martial arts or gymnastics, those mats, there it's those places are you're a very high risk of getting athlete's foot. But in those situations, it's tough to avoid it because your child's going to run around barefoot. So what I would do is I would keep this vinegar in my child's sports duffel or in my beach bag. And after we were done at the pool or at the spray park or at the gym, when he'd get in the car, I would spray his feet with the vinegar. And the reason why this works is because vinegar is acidic, and fungus and yeast are very vulnerable to acid. So if you spray an area with an acidic substance like the vinegar, it will suppress and cut down on the amount of fungus and yeast that might be starting to develop on your child's feet. So another thing, you just get in the habit of doing it often, and you can prevent them from dealing with, especially with something like athlete's foot. Because the problem with athlete's foot is it's slow growing but slow going. And what that means is it can take a while before you notice it's there. When your child has very red, itchy feet, it looks like they have little cracks between their toes. But once it sets in, it takes a long time to treat. So it's definitely one of those situations where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, or a couple of seconds of prevention is worth weeks of trying to treat it. Now, if you can think of other yeast infections or fungal infections that you might be prone to, like some babies will get yeast diaper rashes. You can spray their diaper area with the vinegar after you change them, let it dry, and then put your cream on to prevent diaper rash. Or moms that are nursing sometimes run into a problem with spreading yeast from their skin back and forth between them and the baby. So spraying your breasts, your nipples with the vinegar after nursing, letting it air dry, is a good way to cut down on yeast that way also. I always feel like when I say yeast, it doesn't come out clearly. It's a tough word to say that sounds clear. But anyway, and now it's funny how all of these things are summer problems. I guess it's just because in the summer there's more of a chance of warm, moist situations, and those lead to yeast and fungal problems. Um, so it's like this vicious cycle in the summer. One of the most common calls I would get in the summer was from parents who thought their children, especially young girls, they would call thinking that their child had a urinary tract infection. They would tell me the symptoms were very similar to a urinary tract infection, that the child would be having frequent urination, painful urination, a lot of itching and burning in their private parts. And, it would just sound just like a classic UTI. But what was missing was that with children, especially when they have a UTI, they almost always have fever. And that is different from adults because adults, our bodies are bigger. It's not so much of a central infection, so it doesn't hit you as hard. But with little kids, I'd say under the age of 6 or even 10, if they get a UTI, they're usually really sick. They have vomiting, they have fever, they have abdominal pain. And of course, you do want to try to catch it before it gets to that. But with kids, it seems like it happens really fast. So when a parent would call and say that they seem to have those typical symptoms of a UTI, but the child was otherwise feeling fine. They were energetic, they were eating, they were drinking, they had no fever, no vomiting, no belly pain. They just had this urinary frequency, urinary pain, or what's called urgency, where they feel like they have to go, but they can't. So those are all the symptoms that would suggest irritation, urethritis. Urethritis is the medical term for inflammation of the urethra. So what it really meant was that they had a lot of inflammation in their urinary tract, but that it wasn't caused by bacteria like in a UTI. It was usually caused by uh, either chemical inflammation or yeast inflammation. And that's because if you think about it, in the summer, you might have a young girl, she's maybe 4, 5, 6 years old, and they'll often spend all day in their bathing suit, whether it's just playing in the backyard in the sprinkler or spending all day at the beach or at the pool. Just sitting in that wet bathing suit all day can definitely lead to urethritis. Sometimes it's a combination of the chemicals that are in the pool or the salt water, or the sand. If you have a little girl sitting in the sand in her bathing suit and sand gets in there, that combined with the salt and the chlorine and the sweat from the bathing suit can really, do a number on their urethra and make it very inflamed. What makes it frustrating is it's not treated as quickly as a bacterial urinary tract infection. Sometimes I would almost prefer a bacterial UTI because then you just put them on antibiotics and they're better in 2 days. With the irritation urethritis, the only way you can really treat it is to treat the inflammation so that they feel better, and to try to, you know, use some remedies to help bring down the inflammation. And sometimes simple is best. Vinegar is one of the single best um, ingredients to solve that, to treat that. So when I'm pretty sure that a child has urethritis going on in the summer, sometimes I'll recommend that they get a UTI test over the counter at the pharmacy. You don't need a prescription just to rule that out. But if the test is negative and they have these symptoms, then the best remedy for that, simple but best, is just to have them do a warm vinegar soak every evening. So have them sit in a warm bath with about 2 cups of vinegar in it, and after a couple of times of doing that over a couple of days, they usually feel better. So that's like, well, where does this vinegar spray come in? Well, again, keeping this in the beach bag after they're changing out of their bathing suit, spraying the area with the vinegar will help prevent that urethritis from occurring. So it's another good reason to keep it on hand. Now, I also like keeping it because I wear glasses and the vinegar is excellent at cleaning my eyeglasses. So I like having that on hand for that. And, again, this might be a little too much information, but sometimes after a long hot summer day, my deodorant will fail a little bit and I'll start to feel like I'm smelling a little funky, and spraying with the vinegar, spraying my underarms with the vinegar and letting it air dry, and it deodorizes. You don't smell like vinegar for very long. The smell fades after a couple of seconds, but it can get me through the rest of the day until I can get home and take a shower. So it's just an all around good thing to have. You can get a big bottle like this. You can keep it in your car. You can keep a medium sized bottle, or you can just keep like a little bottle like this. This is what I keep in my purse. And like I said, you use it for all these different things, body odor and cleaning my glasses. And I'm spraying my kid's feet after he's been running around on the gym mats, or if a child has a diaper, I want to prevent a diaper rash, I'll spray their diaper area. Prevent urethritis, I'll use the spray for that. And then, of course, if they've been putting their head underwater at bedtime, we're putting the vinegar in their ears to prevent a swimmer's ear. So a lot of different uses for one very inexpensive, simple, commonly available product. I hope you all find this helpful. I hope I get better with this whole technology so that I can keep these videos going a little more easily, a little more frequently, and I don't have these hiccups, but it is a journey. If you want to check out some of my other videos, you can check out my YouTube channel. They're here. The links are here on Facebook, and I'm going to put up a post that shows up shows all of my other social media links like Instagram or Twix, which I call Twitter X. And I'm also going to put a link to my Etsy shop where you can buy some of the medicinal herbal products that I make myself for children or adults, children of all ages. And you can always keep in touch, email or through Facebook, if you have any questions or if you have any ideas for any other topics that you would like covered. And don't forget to check out the link for my book that's available on Amazon. Have a wonderful, beautiful Memorial Day weekend. Remember, it's always a beautiful day out there, no matter what kind of day it is. But this weekend, it looks like it really, truly is. So take care.